Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Touchline Talk with Odds Changer and SPK. As usual, I'm joined by the one and only football writer and broadcaster and general man in the know, which is good at this time of the year, Dean Jones, to discuss all the latest news and gossip. In this month's transfer window, things are heating up now, Dean. Just a few days left in this January transfer window. There's only one place we've got to start today. It's got to be Newcastle again, the epicenter of this transfer window. It's looking like they might be getting close to pulling off a big signing here, Dean. BRUNO GUIMARAES, the Lyon and Brazil international. A deal has been agreed between the clubs, but maybe not as straightforward as that, with the player yet to agree terms and also other clubs maybe ready to hijack it. What's the latest take on this one?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, we're seeing a lot of tweets and reports right now going around about BRUNO being close to being confirmed as a Newcastle player. But all of a sudden, sources closer to the player are trying to reach out to people and say, hang on, hold fire a little bit. Like, this isn't completed yet. There's still some work to be done. Now, part of that is probably in terms of personal terms, but also part of me wonders if it means that they are waiting for other clubs to step in here, because we know, particularly Arsenal, have been very interested in the player. And from Arsenal's point of view, there's two ways to look at this. On one side of it, they don't want to be beaten to a player by Newcastle, who are in a relegation scrap. They want to be seen to assert themselves in the league and sign this player, but him going to Newcastle doesn't show the intent they want to show right now. But on the flip of it, obviously, if you go head to head with Newcastle for a player, you're going to be playing, well, over the odds, basically. So that's the dilemma that Arsenal have been in up to now. So I just wonder if that one's being dragged out a little bit right now, just to give Arsenal the opportunity to step in, or even somebody else. But obviously, Newcastle are far down the road. They've been trying to accelerate this as quick as they can to make sure that he can't be snatched away from them. Because if this one passed them by as well, it would be a bit of a disaster, to be honest, heading towards deadline day.
Yeah, as you said, it's not been an easy window for Eddie Howe and the recruitment team at Newcastle. Talking of that, it looks like the Diego Carlos deal from Sevilla has hit a roadblock. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. Also, Jesse Lingard is stumbling and might now be off the table as well. What have you heard on those two deals? Are they now looking like they're off?
Yeah, totally. Well, Diego Carlos certainly is off the table now, and they're looking at about 14 other defenders who could potentially step in for him. It's so hard to keep up with who Newcastle were after right now, because like we've talked about before, there's not just one person doing a deal here. There are 4 or 5 different people with different ideas about who would be a good fit, and they're going after them, and then they all kind of come into the pool, and then they're figuring out how to move forward from there. And it makes things very complicated in terms of keeping track of what's genuine and what's not. You're seeing Dan Burn, for example, being suddenly linked with Newcastle, and it's real. Like that is, I'm told, someone to take seriously. I'm not saying that it will happen, but there is something in that story. As for Jesse Lingard, they're struggling to make a breakthrough there. They can't agree the terms with Man United to get him out of the club. And I think with Lingard, there's still some caution as well about whether that move is right for him. So I don't think he's sold on the idea of going to Newcastle at all. But Newcastle willing to pay such a lot of money for a loan deal there. And for Lingard, it's a really important time. He's putting himself in the shop window for the summer when he becomes a free agent, but also he's still putting himself in the shop window for Man United, because deep down, Jesse Lingard doesn't want to leave Man United. And he knows that if he was to go and have 5 good months, wherever it is, there might be a new manager in place at Man United and he might get his place back. Like, he hasn't totally given up on that. So a very interesting one. But yeah, Newcastle still loads to do, still looking for a left back as well. New names cropping up there. Zapata, Duvan Zapata at Atalanta, he's on their radar as well. And actually, like, in terms of personal terms and stuff, that one's not too far away. They've just got to strike a deal with Atalanta, and funnily enough, Atalanta are trying to hold them to ransom for every single euro they can possibly get out of that deal. But that one's possible too. So, look, all I know is that Newcastle really need to start getting these deals tied up ahead of transfer deadline day, because if we think that they're going to be paying over the odds now, imagine what they'll be paying in those last 24 hours.
Exactly. Those clubs and those agents will be rubbing their hands on deadline day if Newcastle have not made more signings by then. Just the 2 signings in so far with Kieran Trippier and Chris Wood. As you said, Dean, I think lots of irons in the fire for Newcastle right now, and just seems like constant names being linked with the club every couple of hours, probably the way this transfer window's going right now for Newcastle. I think there's still a chance me and you might get linked with him.
I'm waiting for the call, mate. Yeah,
exactly. I'm left-footed. I can play at the back for them if needed. Eddie Howe wants a left-sided centre half. Go on, Eddie.
You're in.
Here's my number, pal. If you want it, you can give me a big deal here at Newcastle. But yeah,
you know some agents, mate. Go on and work on it.
I might have to put myself in there, pal, and see what happens. But yeah, obviously, if they could get Bruno GUIMARAES done, it'd be a real signal of intent. If they were to beat the likes of Arsenal and Juventus to his signature, that might help and attract other players to come in before the window, because we all know Newcastle are going to be the busiest club between now and Monday's deadline.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Bruno is somebody that is highly thought of, huge potential. I think he'd be a great addition to the Premier League as well, as the style of his football. And if they get him, it's a really, really good get, and they've got to have done some really good talking to get him to join them at this moment in time. But I say we'll have to wait and see whether they actually do manage to pull it off, because they've struggled a little bit recently with a couple of targets they've been chasing for a long time. So it's not all done yet.
Yeah, huge few days for Newcastle in this transfer window, and it's not a done deal until we see that player in that Newcastle shirt, as Newcastle fans will believe as well. They've had so many heartbreaks even during just this window with so many players linked, and then the deals not happening. Moving on from Newcastle, I'm afraid we have to, as much as we want to talk about them. Another club that we are expecting to be busy in the final few days of this window, Dean, is Tottenham. Antonio Conte has openly admitted he would like some new faces in and some players out. Where are we standing here on where potential new faces coming in? They have obviously bid for Luis Diaz at Porto. That would be a top signing if they're able to do that. What's the latest on that one? I believe Porto rejected the first offer from Tottenham, but do you expect him to come back in with a new improved offer?
I'm not sure it's going to be worth it, because from what I'm told, Porto are going to stand pretty firm on this one. I think they'll let him leave in the summer, but they're really, really stubborn about letting him go right now. I think Liverpool found that out as well, like just initial inquiries that they made ahead of this window. They didn't really intend to sign anyone anyway, Liverpool, but he is somebody on their radar, and they didn't get good signs that he would be available right now. And I think Tottenham starting to experience that too. So not sure we'll see a breakthrough on that one, if I'm totally honest. But Adama Traore, I do expect to finally see that one get done. As far as I understand it, the terms of the contracts are all in place. I think it's a 4.5-year deal from what I was told. And yeah, they're all excited about the prospect of that. He's a player that's been on their agenda for quite a long time, and they feel that he'll really give that Conte side a different edge down the flank. Obviously, they're still looking at trying to sign a midfielder as well. They've been looking at various options there. Currently looking into Amrabat at Fiorentina, who, when you check out the stats, actually hasn't played that much for Fiorentina. He's been a bit of a bit part player there, so fans probably a bit concerned about that. But looking into it a bit further and speaking to people, I'd say, it's nothing more than, how you fit into a team. And he's a very good player and could actually do a very good job in a Conte team. So that could be one to look out for as well. But at the same time, obviously, they need to offload some players, and I know that there are people working behind the scenes whose job it is to move people on and to help them adjust to their next club, who have been told to be on standby for the next few days because they could be very busy. I think we can all guess the sort of names I'm talking about, but yeah, we have to see some movement there.
Yeah, and Ndombele obviously is one of those major names that we're expecting to leave the club before Monday's deadline. Also, Lo Celso, who was left out of the squad against Chelsea last weekend, has openly suggested that he's not happy at the club either. Our Spurs aren't happy with him as well, so it seems he will have to move on. And also Dele Alli, again, maybe a Newcastle backup if they don't manage to land Jesse Lingard. Also talk of Southampton, Brighton and Everton for Dele Alli. You'd expect all three of these players probably to leave before the deadline? Yeah,
at least two of them I think will leave, probably all three. But it's hard to find these three guys a club because they just aren't. They haven't been in great form or shape. Yeah. So you've got to convince people to take them as much as for the player to go and try themselves somewhere else. And for somebody like Dele particularly, there are various clubs linked that you've mentioned there, and you just wonder, like, what are you getting out of him? From what is his motivation right now? Whenever he's moved before, he's been like rising to a challenge. So he's gone like MK Dons to Tottenham. He's got to Tottenham. He's got an England call up, and he's always like stepped up and been like the main man no matter what. And he's not let anybody down. But this will be the first time he's taken a step down in his career. And I just wonder how that will affect him mentally. Like some players, it can trigger something in them. Like Jesse Lingard when he went on loan to West Ham, it was got the fire burning inside him once again, and able to show that form that we all knew he was capable of. Hopefully, wherever Dele ends up in these last few months, he can get that back. There haven't been many signs of it at Tottenham. Definitely, he's on Newcastle's backup list for Jesse Lingard. I think it's Dele and Ross Barkley, the two that are just waiting in the wings there. But again, it might not be until the last 48 hours before you're just seeing a deal like that come through.
Yeah, well, we know Spurs and Daniel Levy do like to do a few deals on deadline day, and I'm sure a lot of the activity at Tottenham, much to the annoyance of Antonio Conte, will probably go down to the wire on deadline day. But Spurs, their business bringing players in, is, as you mentioned, is going to be affected by getting those players out, because until they leave, they probably can't really commit to making new signings.
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, name we haven't spoken about as well. There's Mohamed Ali Cho, who was linked with them. He's a forward from Angers. As I understood it, that the interest 100% real. There definitely talks happening there. Angers value him, I think it's 20 million euros. And Tottenham not convinced that that's the right price for the player and looking to do a bit of haggling over that one. So that could be an interesting one. He's only young, so he's not going to be a regular starter, but might be able to impact their season off the bench or start to emerge as a star there. But there's a lot going on at Tottenham this week, and it's just as well there's no football to focus on really for them because they've got a lot to deal with in terms of player admin.
Yeah, it can be a lot of busy goings on behind the scenes at Tottenham right now, just like Newcastle. It does seem those two clubs will be the busiest heading up to deadline day. Moving across North London, Dean, to Arsenal, suffered a major blow this week in their pursuit of Dusan Vlahovic. He was Arsenal's top target to come in and be their number one striker going forward, but Vlahovic had no real interest in the move to the Emirates, and it seems he is on the verge of a move to Juventus. How big a blow is that to Arsenal, and where do they go from here?
It's disappointing. I think that their pursuit of him was always more in hope than expectation. That they knew that they had a job in convincing him not only to come to Arsenal, but to come to the Premier League at this moment in time, because he wasn't convinced of that. But also they've got a job in their hands to even prove like where they're heading. Like he wants Champions League football, wants European football. Arsenal don't have that right now. And there's no guarantee that they're going to have that in the very near future. So that's a blow for them. And what's important is how they react to it and where they look for their next target. Alex Isak, one of the names that's regularly brought up as a guy that they're looking at. I'm told that he's got similar reservations to Vlahovic about coming into the Premier League right now, particularly again at Arsenal. How would he fit in? Is it the right move for him? So again, Arteta's going to have to do some sweet talking there if he's to join. Maybe the best case for them will end up being Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, Everton in a bit of a mess at the moment, and Calvert-Lewin, I'm sure, just waiting to see how this pans out over the next few months. It wouldn't surprise me if he was to look for a transfer in the summer. And if that did become the case, then I think Arsenal would be at the front of the queue looking to sign him. West Ham were linked with him the other day, weren't they, at £60 million? I don't think there's too much in that, to be honest with you, at the moment. But at £60 million, a player that's got Premier League pedigree, knows some of the players in that squad, would be a good fit for them. I can see that as a good signing. So, yeah, disappointing to lose Vlahovic and not make that signing, but it was always more likely he joined Juventus anyway. And now it's all about making sure that you get it right next time around. And also, you've got to get rid of Aubameyang.
Yeah, not an easy one to get rid of Aubameyang with his wages, and he seems like he wants to stay in Europe despite those offers from Saudi Arabia. So yeah, keeping an unhappy player like Aubameyang's not going to do Mikel Arteta any good. But Arteta has flown out to America to have talks with the owner Stan Kroenke to see if he will loosen the purse strings before Monday's deadline. Midfield's also another area that Arteta is looking to strengthen in. Arthur at Juventus, been strongly linked potentially with a loan with an option. Also Douglas Luiz at Aston Villa is the latest name to be linked. Do you expect Arsenal to bring in a midfielder before the deadline?
Yeah, I do think they will bring one in. This Arthur one's dragged on a little bit now, isn't it? You start to wonder if it's going to happen at this stage when it's not that much of a complicated deal to do from everything I've heard. I know that Arthur wants some assurances that this can be more than a short-term loan, because I think he wants to go and assert himself on that team and become part of a project going forward. And he doesn't really want to find himself, 5 months told, "Oh no, thanks for your help, but no thanks." He's not a massive part of what Juve are doing right now anyway. So he could probably do with the lease of life and a new focus. Again, though, if it was to be a permanent, I think it's around 20 million, something like that. So there's that to deal with as well. So let's see how Arteta gets on with these talks. I'm sure in those talks, Aubameyang will come up and they'll say, "Look, we did back you on this player, gave him this new contract as well, and you were getting a lot out of him to start out with. What's all these arguments you've been having? Is there any way you can sort them out?" Not sure there is, but can you really go through the rest of the season without Aubameyang in the squad around the place and not playing? I'm not sure if you can.
Not when you're not scoring goals, which Arsenal haven't since the turn of the year. They haven't scored in 4 or 5 games. So maybe Aubameyang needs to be brought back into the fold. But can Arteta get the best out of him again? It's going to be an interesting one for Arsenal fans. And would Arsenal fans forgive Aubameyang for these supposed breaches of discipline and everything else? So interesting few days for Arsenal. Do you expect Aubameyang still to be there after the window?
At the moment, I do, yeah. I mean, because I don't see who's taking a punt on him right now. I think it's going to take somebody to, I was going to say suffer like an injury to a player, but no one's really playing at the moment. But yeah, it's going to take someone to suddenly feel that they need to fill a hole in their squad that hasn't transpired so far. I think he was linked with AC Milan recently. I mean, I'm not so sure about that one, but
not on his wages, I don't think.
Not on his wages. No, I could see him going into Serie A. I can see him fitting in there and doing a good job for somebody. But it's the wage problem, isn't it? I mean, how much of those wages are you going to take off Arsenal's hands?
Yeah, Arsenal would be looking at big contributions to those huge wages that Aubameyang is on. But yeah, Arsenal fans have been crying out for signings this month. Nothing arrived in as yet at Arsenal. A few players have gone out, so it's a crucial few days ahead for Mikel Arteta and his recruitment team to see if they can make a breakthrough in this transfer window. Manchester United obviously been quiet on the ins at Old Trafford this month. As expected, Dean, we did suggest that there wouldn't be many coming in to United this month following the arrival of Ralph Rangnick. One player that has departed is Anthony Martial to Sevilla. But could there be another on the way? Donny van de Beek is obviously been totally out of favour at United, not getting enough game time. Crystal Palace interested in the Dutchman. They've made an inquiry. Do you see this as maybe one that United would be willing to accept?
Potentially, yeah, if he was to fit in. I don't think United have got any great desire for Van der Beek to leave, and that's part of his problem. Like, on one hand, they don't want him to leave, but on one hand, they don't want to play him either. So what's he supposed to do? So you can understand why him and his agents are frustrated right now. This move just hasn't panned out at all, and he's left thinking, why did you even sign me? So there's a lot of clubs that have been like knocking on the door to check out interest. I know even Dortmund at one point was trying to see if there was a possibility to get him out there earlier in the month. Everton, Newcastle, even Wolves have, I think, inquired over him as well. Crystal Palace, the latest to be linked. I believe that they are interested in him, but there's a couple of reasons I doubt whether it will happen. One is I was told earlier in the month that Crystal Palace didn't really expect to do any transfer business this month, and the deals that they have looked into so far, everything Nketiah and Aaron Ramsey, neither of them actually ended up transpiring to anything, and it was more inquiry just to see if they could find some sort of term that might suit Crystal Palace, and they might be able to find a way to do it. And in both instances, they didn't manage to do it. So yeah, I've got some doubt over whether Palace can actually pull it off. But for Donny van der Beek, he'd probably like to join a club that's got a nice vibe, has got a freshness about it, a manager that I'm sure would put new confidence and belief in him and hopefully rebuild his form.
Yeah, for the sake of Van der Beek, he really does need to go out there this January to try and get regular game time and show the player that he was at Ajax, because we just haven't seen it at Man United, and through no own fault of his own, I'm sure. Obviously, the managers haven't trusted him, either Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Ralph Rangnick. Expecting any possible more departures at Old Trafford? Dean Henderson still there, not too happy at playing second fiddle to David De Gea. Also Eric Bailly being linked with AC Milan, possibly. Do you think there could be more following Martial at the exit door?
I think Dean Henderson will try hard to push that one. Linked with Southampton, yeah, and I think Southampton do really like him. I think there was one they were willing to wait before signing a new goalkeeper until the summer initially, but from what I'm told, they would be willing to reconsider that now if the right option came along. So that could be interested in the final couple of days. Eric Bailly, does he fit in at United long term? Probably not. But again, From what I was told, United not in a mad rush to get rid of him in this window. He actually did okay at AFCON, putting a couple of good performances there. And I think that put him on another couple of clubs' radars as well, as to, okay, maybe it's worth an inquiry here. Eric Bailly is a good player. I think that it probably is going to suit him to make his next move either to Spain or to Italy. I think that's where he's got his eyes set. Whether it's in this window, I'm still a little bit sceptical.
Yeah, I can't imagine United would want to leave themselves short, considering they've got a lot still to play for in the second half of the season as they try to finish in the top four. Right, moving on to Everton, obviously searching for a new manager following the departure of Rafa Benitez earlier this month. It seems the Portuguese coach Vitor Pereira is the clear front runner for this job. Dean, hasn't gone down too well with Everton's fans right now. It seems the owner, Farhad Moshiri, is the one pushing this deal for the former Porto coach Pereira. What's going on at Everton? It just seems such a fractious relationship now between the board and the fans. It seems fans do want Pereira to come in, but do you see him as a good choice to take over from Benitez?
It's a really difficult decision to make now for the club. Like, this is the guy that I guess Moshiri has decided to go ahead with and has been advised to kind of consider for this role. And he's done that, and I guess he's interviewed well enough that he's put himself in a prime position to take the job. And from what I understand, he's very, very close to actually agreeing this move. Now, the one thing that will be holding Everton back is the fact that fans have protested so heavily against this before the guys even stepped into the dugout. The whole point of this next managerial appointment is to kind of start smoothing things over, start building a new vibe at the club. Let's create bond again between the team and the fans in the stand. Let's get some unity. Let's get out of this mess that we're in. But already they don't want this new bloke, and they're graffitiing around the place that they want him out. He's not even in. So this is a really tricky one, because do they go ahead with the appointment that they feel is right for them and the fans say isn't, or do they bow to the pressure from the fans, not do it, and look for somebody else who perhaps has a bit more Everton in their blood? Does it get someone to work alongside Duncan Ferguson? Do they look at Frank Lampard closer and just find somebody who has a better understanding, I guess, of English football? And it's a tough one. It's a really tough situation for them, because it can go wrong both ways. Yeah. I'd probably advise them to just err on the side of caution here, because this could go if Pereira was to come in and not get off to a good start, honestly, I can't even imagine the scenes that we're going to be seeing at Goodison Park.
Yeah, they're already in a precarious position in the Premier League table, Dean. When you look at it, 4 points clear of the drop zone right now, in a real bad run of form, which resulted in Benitez losing his job. But it just seems, if they go for Pereira, just repeating the mistake they did when they employed Rafa Benitez, and surely they want the fans on side at such a crucial juncture in the season when, as you said, they need a bit of unity to try and get out of trouble.
They're in serious danger of dropping into that bottom four, aren't they? And it looks like it would be really a scrap between that bottom four as to which one would survive. But Everton have been in such bad form, and it's because there's such a bad feeling around the place as well. You're just wondering how far they can plummet and how fast. They've gone pretty fast so far, but it could go even quicker once we get underway again. Look, they've got a break in the season at the ideal time. They can press reset right now and go into the last 4 months with a total new feel about the place, kind of like Watford are trying to do right now, and see what can happen. But this doesn't seem like the appointment that would change the tone of Everton Football Club.
No, and obviously if they do get this new manager in soon, they probably want to do it in the next couple of days to maybe allow themselves to do some business in the January window before it closes. They've done a bit of business with 2 fullbacks in Patterson and Makalenko, the left-sided defender, with Luca Dean going out. You'd expect Everton would be in the market for reinforcements, possibly in midfield. Dele Alli's been mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, they need somebody. One is probably recognisable to fans, so that they have somebody that they can get on board with straight away and they understand what they're signing. I know that shouldn't really have to be the case, and you should just sign players that fit. But ultimately, again, because you're trying to build a bond with the fans right now, like, sign somebody that is going to excite them a little bit and give them some hope. So I think that's something they should be looking to do, to be honest. Sign somebody with some Premier League pedigree, sign someone that's got some character about them, can build some, I guess, character within the team around them as well, because at the moment they just look lost.
Yeah, a fresh impetus is needed at Everton, whether this new manager is able to bring that. Everton fans will be desperately hoping whoever it is, they can get them out of trouble and ensure that they stay in the Premier League this season. Right, that's us here for another week on Touchline Talk. We'll be back next week on deadline day for a special on transfer deadline day, giving you all the latest news and insight on the goings on deadline day. And I'm certain we will be talking about Newcastle United on deadline day.